my history of coaching. We're getting ready to double this guy every single play. Even when we run away from him, we're going to double team him. There will not be a play that he will play against us where we will not double team Lawrence Taylor. Now, the quarterbacks playing now, they couldn't play with LT because LT, not only was he great, but he put some fear in you by his conversation and what he told you he was going to do to you.
Oh, dude, he was unreal. We got to the point when I was in Washington where we would not run away from Lawrence Taylor. Every play we ran at him.
Why?
Because if you ran away from him, he'd tackle you. Well, we had a play where we broke one out on a counter away from him, and we ran it probably about, I don't know, 45, 50 yards. Gerald Riggs down the sideline. Lawrence Taylor caught him, strip fumble, recovered the fumble. Giants ball the other way, we lose it. At the very end of the game, we got to the point where you can't run away from him. He'll make every play in the backfield. So we just ran at him, and we thought the whole principle of it was we're going to run at him, we're going to put helmets on him as much as possible, and hope to God it slows him down in pass rush occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, so not only size, speed, he had a variety of different moves that he went to. And people used to say this a number of years ago when J.J. Watt, when he was in his prime. Oh, man, he's Reggie White. No, he's not Reggie White. I played against LT a bunch, and Reggie White was my teammate. So it's nice a lot of times we try to correlate. Oh, yeah, Khalil Mack, he's played phenomenal. But he is not Lawrence Taylor.
What's the difference in how intimidating he was compared to some of the guys today? Because you talk about LT, and all I hear, he was so intimidating.
You're not allowed to be as intimidating today.
Absolutely.
Because the quarterbacks today know, no matter what trash you're talking, the entire football industrial complex
so much pain on them.
Right, it's set up to protect the quarterback. There were no, I don't want to say there were no rules, but I mean, Lawrence Taylor was able to do almost anything he wanted once he got to the quarterback. And
he took over the title as fiercest rusher from Deacon Jones. Deacon Jones, he's the one that made the head slap illegal. He said, man, what do you do to him? And, oh, I slap a guy on his left or right ear. Does it work? He said, well, it stuns him for a second. Yeah. They made that illegal. Right. And then Lawrence Taylor took over as the most feared rusher. Intimidation was such a part of the game in the 70s and 80s that's been eliminated. But let's not forget the power and the speed. When you saw him play at the University of North Carolina, it was like they shot him out of a cannon. Like he knew the offense, what the snap count was. So, man, his get-off on the ball was phenomenal. There's not players like him you can compare him to.
I'll tell you what, I'll break the huddle against LT. And you break, and you had counter called, and you walk up the line of scrimmage, and you just be peeking out the side of your eyes, and he'd be down there at the end, and you knew you had to pull and trap him, right? And I'd be like, I'd get in my stance. You know, the thing about fear, because I was scared to death, but you know, it didn't stop me from putting one foot in front of the other, right? That's the difference about going out and playing. But I'd be in my stance going, oh God, this is gonna hurt me a lot more than it's gonna hurt him. Like he was gonna feel no pain, and you just run down and bam. You know, it'd be a huge collision, and your neck would be like, and he'd be just like, hey, good hit, youngster. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
Coached by Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Head coach Bill Parcells. So you're talking about, remember I tell you, 99% of the players need a system? He didn't need a system, but he had the perfect system, that 34. He could rush off on that left tackle, man.
He's in the 1% that doesn't need a system, but he also happened to be in the perfect system
for him.
Which is why, I know you're not into this, but if we were to remove like positional value and someone were to say, who's the greatest football player ever? If someone says Lawrence Taylor, you can't dismiss it.
No.
Like, he is absolutely in the discussion for not the greatest pass rusher ever, the greatest football player ever.
He changed offensive football and made you put your best offensive lineman at left tackle. Yeah. Because they started putting their best rush guy at the right defense.
Everyone thinks the book and movie The Blind Side's about Michael Orr. It's actually about Lawrence Taylor. Everyone, if you only saw the movie with Sandra Bullock and her Academy Award, I get it. Read the book, because the book is actually about Lawrence Taylor, with Michael Orr being the contemporary left tackle.
Oh, I thought it was about a white family adopted a poor black kid.
Oh, it was really about Lawrence Taylor. No, that's a good way to win an Academy Award, though.
Man.
On a related note, the new space movie's about Neil Armstrong, in case anyone's wondering.
Jenna Wolfe picked a first man yesterday, halfway through it, says to Dustin,
more people are watching the show. You're not trying to make them go away.
Okay, sorry.
Well, now you left out the only part.
Is it Neil? Is it Neil Armstrong?
I just didn't know.
That's a true story.
Moving on to the defending Super Bowl champs, but I love you, Dusty. They broke a 2-game losing streak by trouncing the Giants on Thursday Night Football. This week, they will face a Carolina Panther team in what could be a playoff preview. Cam Newton trying to get his team back on track after losing to Washington last week. Carson Wentz trying to keep his team on track after their win last week.
We're hungry. You know, that's a locker room of hungry guys, and so when guys make mistakes, they're not happy about it. You know, they're not guys that hang their heads. We're guys that are looking forward to improve off of that mistake and learn from it. So I think really all the coaches, and then the leaders on this team did a great job last week on a short week of just reminding everybody who we are and just playing fast, playing our football. Yeah, I mean, anytime you can play a game like that against an NFC East opponent like that on the road, you know, on Thursday Night Football, that, you know, gives you confidence. You know, every time we go out there and we put up a performance like that, you know, we're just one step closer to being who we are and knowing who we are. And so, yeah, it definitely gives us confidence going forward.
All right, Stink, the Giants weren't exactly the fiercest, toughest opponent, but the Eagles did beat them. How close are they now when you look at this Philadelphia team to resembling the team we saw march through and win last year?
Well, I think they're growing closer to that. Still some defensive struggles that they have had. You know, Saquon Barkley ran through them, caught the ball underneath, made big plays in the passing game. But I think offensively, the thing to me that is setting them apart, or will set them apart, is Carson Wentz coming off the knee injury and him continuing to develop, him continuing to get confidence. Anytime you come off an injury like that, it takes you a bunch of games. It takes you 5, 6, 7 games to all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about my knee in practice. I didn't even think about the recovery. I didn't even think about that in the game. And so it gets you to the point where you start to develop more and more and more confidence. And when you do that, you're going to play faster and faster. And so I think that's offensively where they are. When they get that rhythm back with their quarterback, they start running the ball a little bit more because they do have a tendency to get away from it. I think then we'll see this team continue to progress and get back to kind of their Super Bowl form.
Yeah, I think there was a trap that they had to fall into because, for one, whoever they were going to be this year, regardless of how well they played, they couldn't be the team from last year because the quarterback wasn't there. And Stink, you know this, when we start a season over now in the NFL, more so even than when we play, you got 30, 35% new faces.
Yeah.
So you're saying, okay, you know, I want this team to play like last year's team with 30 to 40% new personnel, including the most important one, the quarterback. Like, it's not a goal that's obtainable. So, like, we shouldn't be talking about Carson Wentz. What I like here in the press conference is he skipped over that. He said, we got back to the identity for which we know. That's playing fast, because there's certain traits or characteristics that teams want to be able to play to. And I think that's what's more important to Philadelphia, being a physical football team, offense and defensive front, not giving up big plays on the back end. These are the type of characteristics, mixing the run with the pass, moving the quarterback out of the pocket. These are the characteristics to playing good football, not to last year's Super Bowl. So for me, we got to stop, and they got to stop trying to get back to something that's not obtainable, because we don't have the same guys. So now I'd be asking these guys to play like the guys that I had last year.
Agreed, except for this point. They do have the same offensive line. They have the same defensive line with some additions.
No, they don't.
What do you mean?
Jason Peters, he's starting.
Yeah,
right?
But he was there for the bulk of their run last year.
No. Let's go to the last 2 games of the regular season, the 2 games in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl. That's a 5-game. That's the team that won the Super Bowl. Would you guys agree? It's not the team that started in September.
Agreed.
It was that team that took the field in late December. Questionable. That's why you had huge question marks about them. So you can't. That offensive line's not the same. The defensive line's not the same.
So the point that I think you might actually agree with the point I'm trying to make, which is the way they were in position to have home field was the strength of their offensive line, defensive line, and quarterback play. Now those 3 units, like what we saw against the Giants was how the Eagles were in the position they were in pre-Carson Wentz injury. Against the Giants, they allow 1 sack. back after the offensive line not playing well. Against the Giants, their D-line looks ferocious, and I think most importantly against the Giants, Carson Wentz was better on third down, completed more passes, and had more yards passing on third down against the Giants than he had in the 3 previous games combined. That, to me, was what their special sauce was last year, prior to the underdogs, prior to the injuries. Like, we got to see how they're going to be in the playoffs once the playoffs start. But to get back there and to potentially have another home game in Philadelphia, it's offensive line, defensive line, and quarterback.
But there's no team. There's no team that's preparing, saying, I want to do what I did last year. All right? So we as commentators, I'm not going to commentate because I know no team is doing that.
You know what's interesting? Doing a couple of Rams games, they didn't really play at all in the preseason, their offense. And everybody's like, oh, how's this going to affect them? Well, they brought back 10 of 11 starters. So they had continuity from last year. Like the Philadelphia Eagles started the season without their quarterback. He wasn't full go in practice. So you've got an extension in the first 3 weeks of really you're playing preseason games as you're trying to get but you're in the regular season. So there was going to be a learning curve for them. But I'm with you. When they get the offensive line, defensive line, they're built from the inside out.
It's not, to me, it's not about how did we win last year. It's about what is the strength of our team. Like, let's say last year never happened. We would look at the Eagles and say the strength of their team should be their big people and their quarterback. That's the point I'm making.
And that's what they should be talking about. And that's what we should be talking about, because what happened last year, it does not help Carson Wentz. It does not help Jason Peters. Why? Because they weren't there. They were just like me, not there.
We actually were there.
Stick around. Be here when we come back. Coming up, can the Cowboys keep their momentum going against Washington? That's next on First Things First.